Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Artificial DM. Today we're going to be diving into another RPG horror story. And being as the last time we went to TG, we had a fairly good response. I decided that we might enjoy delving into more TG threads. This one in particular is going to be full of cringe. Maybe not as bad as the tale of Big Boy Blue, but instead you're going to be enjoying the tale of a game store employee. He actually goes into 3 different tales in the thread. I decided, why not? Let's go ahead and read them all. So this will be longer than normal, but that's okay. If you think about it, and midway through, if you're enjoying the tale, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because I'll probably be diving into more of these archived horror stories. So get ready for some cringe as we dive into this RPG horror story. Gather around, guys! It's time for a tale of dice, whales, and that guys! Ready your britches and get some cookies. It's story time! This takes place in a game shop I worked at a few years back, like 8 or so years. It was just a summer job, but ooh boy, the shit I have witnessed. Was really cash though. Anyway, this first story is one of the 2 most horrifying experiences I had there. I present to you, The Tale of the Landwhale. It's summer. I had been working behind the counter for a week now, and everything was cash. The shop consisted of 2 floors. The entrance, where most of the board games were placed. Think Monopoly, Scrabble, Munchkin, and the downstairs, where the real treasures were. D&D, Pathfinder, Dark Heresy, and more were regularly played by all sorts of types downstairs. Today, I helped a group of kids get started, being taught by one of the kids' older brothers. A cool enough guy. He really roped in those guys. Taught them the glorious ways of role-playing and dice. However, as time passes, it begins to rain. Heavily. A shadow falls upon the windows out to the street. The bell rings as the door opens. A foreboding ring. It is the fattest person I have ever seen in my entire life that is not on a screen. A true-to-life Landwhale. In she comes with thundering footsteps, only momentarily hindered by the door. She's waddling along, makeup running down her fat cheeks and quadrupled chin. Every step causes her fat to wobble and shake like a very, very ugly bowl of jelly. Emperor have mercy. I couldn't even get out a greeting. Not that it mattered. Down she went, dripping water everywhere, leaving large, wet footsteps after her. I was afraid the stairs were going to break beneath her. The store manager is back from his smoke break and we switch places. I have a crate with some new minifigs to place down there anyway. The Landwhale is there, scouring the shelves of rulebooks with her tiny, beady eyes. I pass by with my box and start placing some orcs on the shelves. Never got into minifig collecting myself, but I like the various designs.
Hey, you. Where's the Pathfinder rulebooks?
Oh dear God, she spoke. She possessed a stench like raw ham. I fought back the urge to revolt and told her to check the second shelf from the left. I should note that this was 8 years ago, so I don't remember exactly what it was she was looking for, but I'm pretty sure it was something to do with races. Either way, she grunted at my response and waddled over, slapping her fat, wet fingers on the book covers.
I can't find the extended races.
Saying she could speak was an understatement. It was more like shouting, constant shouting. As much as I dreaded it, I had to put on my best behavior and help the blob of fat out. I moved around the shelf, and with a quick glance, found her book. Here you go, Extended Races for Pathfinder. Have fun!
Not this one. I already have it. I need the other one.
I put the book back and told her to wait. We are importers of these rulebooks and hobbies, you see, so the community is a bit slower here than in the US. I walked back up to the counter and asked the manager, whom I will refer to as Boss from now on, to look it up on the web. Again, I don't quite remember what it was she wanted, so bear with me here. We couldn't find anything other than that one book, so there wasn't much else I could do. I found her looking through the 3rd edition Shadowrun core book, water dripping down the pages, ruining them. That's just mean. Also, that specific book would go on to become something much greater, but that's for another story. I'm sorry, but we only have that one. Couldn't find any news of an Extended Races 2 either. Sorry.
What kind of shit store is this?
You fucking what, mate? Yeah, She had called the only game shop in 3 counties radius a shit store. But this was only the beginning of a shitstorm. I told her again I couldn't help her, and next thing I know, she threw the core book. It smashed into the minifigs, breaking a box of Marines. Shit had hit the fan. You better pay for that!
Fuck you, and fuck this useless store. Nobody's ever nice to me. You just don't want to help me, because I'm fat, you skinny rat.
That actually stung a little. I've never been the most athletic person. Frankly, I hated PE back at school. So yeah, I'm slim. I told her to get out and was left to pick up the core book and figures, when another book graced my head, cutting a deep gash in one of the box starter sets. The bitch was throwing a tantrum, and with it, books. Screaming and shouting that it was her against the world, etc. Good effing lord. One actually hit me, and I fell over in surprise and hit my head. No cuts, but it did swell and hurt. The manager came storming down the stairs, fuming, while I ran over to the book section for protection, trying to put as many walls between her and me as possible. She might have been fat as a whale, but she had a surprisingly mean throw. If she wasn't fat and trained regularly, she might have actually done it decently in baseball. Those boys I mentioned earlier left really quickly, visibly frightened. The Landwhale screamed and screamed, tearing books and whatever else she could get her hands on down from the shelves. So let me talk about my boss for a second. He's Turkish, lanky, fought cancer and won not many years ago, and he has a really mean tongue. Dude speaks like a machine gun when he wants to, real rapid fire. He grabs the Landwhale by whatever clothes she was wearing and shouts angrily at her. In Turkish. She just stood there, staring at him. He then points at the stairs and says, "Get out!" She left, but not without bawling some more about how mean we were and shit. Took her a good 10 minutes to get up the stairs as well. Me and the boss spent the rest of the day cleaning up after her, placing a few boxes in a newly dubbed bargain bin. At least I got a free Coke and a bag of ice to enjoy. My parents were just as shocked as I was when I told them. They had never expected to hear something like that from a nerdy hobby like role-playing. And you thought it was over? Oh, hell no! Mr. Bones was just getting started, Furbolg. Now the real ride to hell begins! For you see, that was not the last time I would see the Landwhale. Oh, no, no, no. She returned not long after. A week and a half goes by. Relative peace, except a small MTG tournament we held. New coworker begins there, is nice company. And the day after that, the Landwhale returned. It's a warm day, no wind, only the unforgiving sun high in the blue above. She comes in wearing a stretched black t-shirt. T-shirt is soaked with sweat. She stinks as well. She brought 2 friends. The dude has long, greasy hair dyed blue and asked me where the Sonic comics were. JPEG. Other whale is actually dressed properly. Turns out it was Landwhale's mother. New guy gets put to the task of helping the fat guy out while I go piss. Landwhale is relatively quiet this time. Quiet being conversing with her mother through shouts. How I found out they were related. Landwhale kept referring to the other lardass as Mom. She's looking to buy some minifigs this time, anything fantasy related for a campaign she was going to hold. Well, thank God for Warhammer then. She gathers about $300 worth of figs. Mom Whale pays. Fat Sanic fan pays for his comics out of his own pocket. He's not too bad. Had a nice conversation with the new guy. They leave without further issue. In relation to the boss, he doesn't think too highly of us nerds. He tolerates us. To him, it was just a job, and I was a fool for letting the Landwhale in. I'll admit that. But it was a new job, and I didn't have much experience. I had actually hoped she had gotten better. The actual problem came later. You see, the Landwhale had the glorious idea that she would move her RPG session from her house to our shop. We have some tables down on the lower floor you can use, no reservations. And back she comes, with friends. No brother, though. She brought 3 friends, all female whales as well. They were so friggin' loud. I know women love to chat, but dear Paylor. Since there was no trouble the second time, I let her in again. Landwhale tells me they are going to the tables below, and off they go. The boss came up to me shortly after and told me if they caused any trouble, it was out with them and bans. I ask him if I can call the cops, should it get as bad as last time. He reluctantly agreed. We could hear everything they were saying, mostly because the rest of the customers had gone silent, staring at the 4 sacks of fat gathered around the table. It starts to get really annoying after a while, so I went to tell them to pipe down, and that is when I see what they were playing. It's some abomination of a D20 system, gutted from Pathfinder and stitched onto some other system I'm not familiar with. The bizarre thing is just how professionally the whole table is set up. There was a really good looking world map, along with a second map over a city, printed on a grid, with various minifigs placed here and there. I'll admit, I was morbidly curious after seeing this. For a Landwhale, she seemed really serious about the whole DM business. The players were listening and acted on their turns, and there seemed to be a sort of control over the whole situation. It actually looked fun. So, I listened in on what they were saying. Oh my gosh.
Alright, Blue Whale. You have the stable boy pressed against the wall. What do you do?
Oh! I pull down his pants and stroke my cock against his. Let's just say my expression gave Scream a run for its money. Horrified and stunned, I listened to how 3 women took advantage of some poor dude in a barn. At least, I think they were playing as women. I had to step in and put a stop to this madness. Okay, ladies, that's enough. You're being very loud, and there are children here. Take your fat material somewhere private, please. Landwhale was not happy. In fact, she completely ignored me and kept going on with describing how the stable boy was raped by 3D-sized cocks. I told them again to pipe down at the very least, but nope. They told me to leave them alone. Oh, hell no. Oh, no. That won't do. So I take drastic measures and slam my hand down on the table. It hurt. A lot. Listen up, lardasses. If you 4 don't pack your Yale porn and get the fuck out of Dodge, I'm gonna call the cops. Her response?
If you don't shut the fuck up and leave us alone, I'm gonna turn you into an NPC.
You know how these kinds of players treat NPCs. And you know exactly what they do when they project people they dislike as NPCs. And then she touches me. Her hand is wet and sticky and covered in red crayon dust. At least I hope it was a red crayon. I know for a fact that was no red crayon. I jolted back, pulling my hand away and turned. But the war horn had been blown, and the whales were preparing for war. They howled like animals, trying to establish their fat superiority as glorious pen and paper role-playing gamers over a lowly store clerk like me. I called for the boss to call the cops, which he did. And with that, Landwhale rose up from her chair, flapping her fins and bellowing like a drunk dog. She screamed at me, telling me how much of a bad person I was for suppressing her and her friends. How I was being a sexist loner, and probably lusted for people of the same gender as myself. Mind you, this was 8 years ago, so it was even more ridiculous than it would be today. I told her to fuck off. That's when she tried to hit me. Apparently I was too pissed off to notice she had been moving towards me. She swung her sausage of an arm at me, hitting me in the arm. It didn't hurt, but I took great offense to it. Woman or not, I punched her back. Have you ever punched a fat person? It's kind of like hitting a balloon filled with goo. Boss, who was on the phone with the cops, yelled at them to hurry on over. And so it goes, a fight for the century, like none had ever witnessed before. Store clerk versus Landwhale! She was angry, she was mad, and I wanted her to get the fuck out of my workplace, so I punched her in the face for good measure. She dropped faster than a soccer player, crying for an ambulance and saying that she was bleeding. Paler, I wish she was bleeding. That would have only added more to the satisfaction. But she was fine, if a tad bruised. Her friends then ganged up on me, throwing insults and paper balls at me. Yes, paper balls. As in they were tearing apart paper, rolling it up, and throwing it at me. Finally, the cops came, and I wasn't very happy when I saw that the head of police was out on patrol today. Why? Let's just say I have a bit of a history with the local police as a wee young lad, having run away twice when I was still in kindergarten. So, yes, I was taken in as well. The ladies escorted away, and I got to ride with Uncle Police for the third time in my life. They let me go after I explained the situation to them, though Dad had to pick me up. He was less than pleased. Returning to the shop just before closing hours, I was informed that Landwhale and her friends had been banned from the shop. And thus ends my tale of... It's not over! The Landwhale's pride was hurt, and she wanted blood! And she knew just how to get it. You get 3 guesses while I type up the next part. To be continued in Landwhale 3D. Alright, I'm gonna pause here. Holy frick. Okay. Personal cleanliness and health are very important. Never come into a store and touch merchandise with wet hands. How is that even something I should say? Just no. Why the shouting? That's just... And then just the fact that she had a temper tantrum, a complete meltdown where she was throwing merchandise. And technically, OP could have claimed assault, or at the least they should have banned her right then and there. And instead, they say nothing, and she just acts like all is forgiven? And comes back to the store? Multiple times? Also, I said it earlier, but I'm gonna say it again. I know for a fact that was not Red Crayon. That's a big no. That's a big no. I'm not going into more detail. That's all you need to know. And ERP in a public space? Loud ERP in a public space? I will say, OP is in the wrong. He shouldn't have hit her. I am for equal rights, equal fights, but only when it comes to preventing harm. She was just lashing out, and she didn't even hurt OP. If she was being a threat to customers, or was coming at him more intentionally, wanting to do harm, that's when he could have gone ahead and punched her back. But being as that wasn't what happened, it was just a single angry lash out. All he needed to do was go upstairs, call police, and say, oh, by the way, she assaulted me, and things would have been handled there. Let's go ahead and return to what happens with Landwhale and crew. As the nostalgia critic once said,
there are not enough toilets in the world to contain the amount of shit-spewing fear that I am going through right now.
Imagine, if you will, a calm time. You spend your time milling about in your favorite store, checking out your nerdy girls and new games and systems, thinking to yourself in your golden age. You rest easy, you smile, and shield your eyes from the... when out of nowhere comes Mommy Whale, for her baby is a precious snowflake now tarnished by the hands of the devil. My mother was a hamster, and my father smelled of elderberries. Not true, by the way. I had assaulted her daughter, and had to pay the court a fine. My stolen goods were now forfeit. I just told her to leave, and offered her a free comic that we were handing out at the store. Some Marvel event, I believe. But Mother Whale refused to leave. Turn yourself into the police, or else! Or else what? No, seriously. Or else what? Look, lady, I just work here, okay? It's my job to keep it nice and clean for everybody. I'll agree. General dismemberment and random acts of violence is not for everybody. But rape and sex, be it real or imagined, is a very uncomfortable topic for many of us. Paylor. How I wish I had said that. Okay, I did say the or else what part, but the rest is just embellishment. I just didn't expect her to actually call the cops. Yeah, can you believe it? And you know what's worse? They actually came! To make it short and sweet, this particular cop was having a bad day, and he needed something to get it going. I'm still not sure why they felt the need to send a car, but they did. I was standing there, yelling at her for being so dumb as to not see the error of her daughter's way, but it was like talking to a wall. A sentient wall of fat. No, kids were meant to explore themselves and develop. It's all natural and a part of growing up. Surely I should know that, right? Now, to continue on the last sentence, yes, I know we are meant to explore ourselves and develop, but I don't discuss bending a bar wench over a table and raping her. That's insane! Unfortunately, it would not be the first time I would be confronted by rape in a D20 setting. So the cop has us each tell the story from our side. Mommy Whale went first, and her story included, but was not limited to, me name-calling her daughter the moment she came in the door. making it uncomfortable and throwing a general tantrum when I couldn't boss Landwhale around. How brave little innocent Landwhale was in the face of overwhelming odds. And the aforementioned punching. In plural. Multiple times. My story... Sorry, it's good. My story included security camera footage. I'd like to point to the Nostalgia Critic quote in the previous post. That wasn't about me. That was about her. Mommy Whale went white in her already pale, puffy face. So, long story short, because there really isn't much more to it now, I got off with a slap on the wrist, and Mommy Whale left with a fine for wasting the cop's time. Justice was had that day, at least of the self-righteous kind. I worked at that game shop for 2 more years, and wowee, it was a blast. There are more stories to be told. Here are 2. Magical Realm Shadowrun, Furry Halloween. Pick one. Only the Shadowrun story has anything to do with the story. Alright, so it's no wonder that Landwhale acts the way she does. She has a Karen for a mother, which is no surprise, honestly. Because I go into these stories blind, I was actually expecting there to be a lot more about Landwhale. So, sorry about that. Everything I said before Mommy Whale got involved remains true. I don't really think there's anything else I can add on. Also, I want to mention really quick, thank you Crowe's Perch. I really appreciated your voice work for the Landwhale, and you guys should check out some of his stories. He does far better voices than I do. The link is up above and down in the description box. So now we're going to be entering the Shadowrun story. But if you're not interested in the Shadowrun story, and you just want to get to the furries, I've got timestamps down below. Now with that, let's go ahead and dive into the Shadowrun story. Alright then, come one, come all, the portal is open. To everybody else, sorry, Furry Halloween later, expect cringe, and literal shit. Ah, Shadowrun. Wonderful cyberpunk with a core book that is confusing beyond belief. I've played 2 versions of it, and both just as little. So, after the toss and tumble at the game shop the year before, I landed a full-time job there. Life was good for a young man. My Turkish boss had finally started to grow a heart for us nerds, meaning I could get some deals out of him regarding playing space, provided strict rules were followed. And I had some friends to hang out with, so I made a deal where he let us use the store after hours to play. I just had to usher my pals out before 11 and close up everything. We usually close at 7. No big deal, I could do that. I had proven myself capable as well, so he wasn't too worried. I had 2 buddies I used to play with. Let's call them Benny and Carl. We had gotten in contact with a group looking for new players, and we were up for the task. Shadowrun 3rd Edition. Our contact was a regular at the shop, a real neckbeard by the name of Daniel. A nice guy. So, it's time for our first session, and everyone is ready. It's me, the rigger, Benny the shaman, Carl the street Sam, Daniel the gun bunny, Rat Cunt the whore, Mongoloid the caveman, and finally our GM, Mr. I Love Lollies himself. I gave them these names after the fact. Now, if those names weren't a clear indicator of what was to come, don't worry. Me and my buddies got to see it firsthand. So, we are in Detroit. Hey, cool, Michigan. I pick up some strange waves in the Matrix as someone tries to hack my rotor drone. Benny felt a disturbance in the force, and Carl and Daniel are looking for a missing shipment of guns. This is how we meet. I snatch some coherence from the hacker, but he escapes. Benny follows the spirit call. Carl and Daniel trail some rival gangbangers to a warehouse. Me and Benny are led to the same warehouse. We are all instantly spotted and detained by chromed up trolls and orcs, and forced inside. There we meet the leader of the gang. I'm trying to write this all from memory here. She's a young elf with charisma out the ass, in a skimpy, tight dress, with thigh highs. And she's covered in blood. That's what I remember, but I know it was worse. Anyway, so we're there, totally trumped by her brilliance and bedazzling beauty. Oh, and she's blowing one of Carl and Daniel's missing guns. I'll leave the rest up to your imagination, boys. She gives us 2 choices. Work for her, or die. As for the DM, oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Mr. I Love Lollies? I meant Mr. I Love mutilating little girls and rape their corpses. So, there we are. guns to our heads, and in perfect view of what's between her legs. Trust me, the GM was far more descriptive than I was. Even Daniel, who knew the GM personally, was visually disturbed. Benny, who was also our face, tried to talk to her, wanting to know what was going on. She needed us for a mission. But with her own personal army, and with all the guns she just stole, wouldn't she be able to do it herself? She giggles creepily, aka the GM was being a creep, and says she doesn't want to sacrifice any of her men. Just remember that for later. We all agree to work, cause this is obviously a plot hook, and I take the bait for all it is worth. I do try to see if I could find something about her by scanning her face in the Matrix, but nope. Blocked. No white noise, no firewalls, just blocked. I smell DMPC. Oh, and somehow the lolly knows, so she shoots me in the knee, destroying it. No dice were rolled, and screw the fact that my legs were already cybernetic. And she laughs again. Our mission was to infiltrate the mansion of some CEO of a corps and kidnap his daughter. Now, being an avid user of the Matrix, I have seen some shit in the ShadowNet, and this was making my character's inner alarm bells go off, as if they weren't already after being shot at by the quest giver. So we are rushed off, followed by her two most loyal subjects, Rat Cunt and Mongoloid. So, you guys wanted to know about Rat Cunt. Well, here's what I had on the guy. He was a skinny, underfed dude. Teeth like a rat and a major case of underbite. He also looked like a rat and was a filthy pervert in the cahoots with the GM. Mongoloid was just a chaotic, lol and are dumb, pink mohawk troll. He was also very dumb in real life. Rat Cunt got his name after he tried to rape a security guard at the mansion where our mission would take place. Alright, so we get in the van provided by the lolly, and as the rigger, you'd expect me to drive, right? Too bad my leg was busted. So, Rat Cunt got to drive. Too bad he was a shit driver then. Off to the mansion we go. So, here's the situation. We had no plan, a rigger with a busted leg but a working rotor drone, and two idiots in the front seats. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Rat Cunt was playing a woman. It's not important, but it kind of is. At least to him, for he would just not shut up about it. So I decided to play a selfish asshole for once, and wanted to get my leg fixed. Nope, shot down by GM Fayette. The abduction had to be done now. Daniel protested out of character, saying this was going against every other move in every game of Shadowrun ever. Benny was also concerned for my character, and Carl was annoyed because he didn't like being threatened by a little shit stain. He was also above kidnapping kids, and suggested we take the CEO himself. He was promptly ignored by the GM. After nearly crashing several times, you Rat Cunt, and Mongoloid making yo mama jokes non-stop, we finally arrived. Those that could got out and began their infiltration. Meanwhile, I was left behind to guard the car. Then it hit me. Wait, hold on. We never got our stuff back. Oops, maybe you should have asked. Lol. My face went. So there we are, 4 guys without their guns. At least I had my drone and the car. And 2 idiots. They decided to go ahead with it anyway. The madmen. Mohawks, I swear. There are no walls surrounding the mansion. What? So Benny, Carl, and Daniel sneak out onto the grass. But Rat Cunt and Mongoloid just walk up the main drive. What? And open the front door. What? The 3 guys follow. And what do they see? Statues of young nubile girls. The door closed behind them. They had now entered the magical realm. We were all dreading what came next. I got control of the van in the meantime, ready to either bail like a pussy or crash it into the mansion itself. Benny scanned the place for any spiritual activity and was met with, what else? Naked young girls begging for cock. In the statues. Yeah, but they soldier on. My buddy's hellbent on doing this stealthily. Try to guess how long that lasted. After getting the car under control, I decided to try and scout the house using my drone. So I remotely controlled the rotor drone and flew it in around the grounds. There were some lit windows here and there, and of course, I spotted the target. In her bed, wide awake. Wearing lingerie. Just why? I inform my pals over the comms that the daughter is on the second floor, but she is awake. I avoided mentioning directly just how lately she was clothed, instead opting to say that she would need a jacket. The others knew, out of character of course. Oh, and how did we contact each other if we just met and never had time to prepare? Look, if the GM wasn't going to be fair, then neither were we. I'm just happy I got to keep the essentials, like the RCC and datapad. They move on, the descriptions of the house becoming more and more perverted. We questioned why the hell security was so light, but it was all hand-waved by the GM. Oh, geez, how nice. No challenge, huh? Then we finally meet a hindrance. A guard, standing outside the target's bedroom. And she was female. Cue Ratcunt grabbing his dice.
I roll to seduce the guard.
His role-playing skills are comparable to a dying fish on land. I decided enough was enough, but not before putting a bullet in the GM's fetish. Ratcunt seduced the guard through GM Fiat, and the ERP begins, and then the session ends. I passed some notes around to my buddies, and we all agreed that this had to end. So here's a little list of just how quickly this run went to hell. Ratcunt makes his presence known. Daniel tackles Ratcunt. Benny and Carl ganged up on Mongoloid. I started firing upon the mansion to sound any alarms. Dice were rolled, moves made, and fingers flipped at the GM. We also ended it there. I stood up and told the GM to get the fuck out of my store. Yes, I know it wasn't mine, but the store was my responsibility.
Lol WTF, why you no play?
You mad, lol? GM Fiat, stop your rolls, lol. The problem with that, guys, is that they can't see their own mistakes. They view themselves as some sort of holier-than-thou beings, whom us mortals should worship just for existing on the same plane of existence as them. Oh, I wish he was on another plane of existence, alright. Now, here is where the core book I mentioned Landwhale throwing became legendary. Hardbound books make for surprisingly solid blunt weapons. You should try it once. I was using the core book for myself, wanting to have an easy way of checking the rules if needed, and we had 2 more books, privately owned by the GM and Daniel respectively, to share. So I picked up the book and walked around the table to where the GM sat, and lifted it above my head. Get the fuck out, or I will knock you the fuck out. I was not close enough for him to hit me, but I could easily step forward and club him. We then began listing all his faults and why the run wasn't working out, to which he got really pissy. His reason was, get this, you'll love it.
I'm the GM. It's my rules, my story.
I almost hit him, stopping just short of planting his face in the book. Benny, Carl, and Daniel were already up and packing, and helped me chase the 3 assholes out. After closing up shop, we drove out to a soccer field, made of good old gravel and sand, not fancy fake grass like nowadays, and burnt our character sheets. OP's synopsis of why that guys are that guys is actually really good, and I really gotta commend Benny, Carl, and OP for stepping up and putting their foot down and saying, no, this is not tolerable. Honestly though, what's with neckbeards wanting to insert every single fetish they have, especially jailbait ones? Ugh. Now it's gonna be time to get into the furry story, which actually doesn't happen around the table, so this will be interesting. I suppose it is time for the Yiff Halloween, yes? You expecting cringe, yes? Last year was a turbulent one for me. Lots of ups and downs that I still feel today. Not that that would stand in the way of some partying. So off I go to a friend's house, dressed up in my best outfit. A zombie noir detective, complete with fake snub-nosed revolver, makeup, and a hip flask filled with something nice. However, on the way, I meet 2 furries. Now, I've been lurking for a long time. I already know I should stay the fuck away from them. But as it stands, they are going the same way as me. They ask me if I'm going to some guy's house, which happens to be the guy who lives next to my friend. I told them so, and they just nodded, their mouths probably full of fake fur. We made our way to our destination, the 2 of them talking about some horse or something. Pretty sure they were both boys. We split up without a word. One house was filled with disco lights and a deep, pumping bass that made the window glass vibrate. The other house was filled with furries. Guess which one I was going to. I was greeted by a chick in a nurse costume, clearly bought at the last minute. Inside, the music pumped loudly and the booze flowed freely. I'm more of a whiskey person than a beer person, honestly. Beer just doesn't taste right for me. There's lots of nice tarts in there, much skin to be viewed. I'm in some good circles, so there's plenty of tail to chase. No pun intended. It gets late, over midnight, and we are all pretty hammered. I was sitting on the sofa with a group of other people. The rest talk, but I'm too busy watching a couple get it on in the corner. So a bro gets the bright idea that we should mess with the furries next door. Brilliant! Best idea I heard all night. Let's yiffing do it. 4 of us boys leave on the excuse that we need some air. It's freezing outside. There's me, bro dressed as Hulk Hogan, other bro who's dressed like Sam Jackson from the Avengers, and Spider-Man. Right, yeah, we weren't very scary at all. The other house is uncomfortably quiet, so we sneak up to the window facing the front yard. The lights were on inside, and we could easily peer inside, since we were taller than the wall. Inside, there's a yiffing fur pile. Yep, you heard that right, a fur pile. Also, the house is a yiffing mess. Dust and garbage everywhere. Whoever owned that place was not fond of cleaning. Here's where it gets weird. A furry suddenly opens the front door and says, "You guys want to come in?" 3 of us promptly noped out of there, but not Hulk Hogan. Oh, no. Hulk Hogan wanted in. Hulk Hogan was a man, and he wasn't going to pussy out on this. He wanted to film this shit from the best possible angle. Hulk Hogan thought himself a man. Pretty in character for someone who dresses as Hulk Hogan for Halloween. I thought this Hulk Hogan was a yiffing moron. Me, Jackson, and Spidey get out and leave our clearly drunk bro on his own. Big mistake. Rule number 1 of the bro code. Never leave a bro behind. Or was that rule number 3? I don't remember. We go back to our booze and music. But after a while, we start to miss our Hogan. Where was he? Had he come back? Maybe he was on the toilet. Nope. There was just someone puking in the toilet. Maybe he was in the bedroom. Nope. Just the couple I watched earlier taking it to third base. So where was he? And then the horror dawned upon us. We rushed over to the Yiff House like our butts were on fire, and through the window, we saw him. Hulk Hogan wasn't wrestling the furries. Hulk Hogan wasn't dunking some stinking cunt boy in the toilet after tearing his fursuit apart. Hulk Hogan was partying with the yiffing furries. And he was wearing a fur mask. Apparently our bro Hogan had, through his drunken stupor, gotten into contact with his inner animal, and that experience had only been strengthened with even more booze provided by the furries. I was genuinely surprised any of them actually had money for beer, knowing how expensive those fursuits can be. We tore the door open and rushed through the hallway, crying out for our bro. Seeing that mask up close was even more terrifying. It was a pink cat mask with neon green hair and large rainbow-colored eyes. I remember, because I was there when he burnt the yiffing thing a few days later. He kept it, don't ask me why. I had no words to describe it. He was totally into it, drinking beer with a straw, 10 lashes with a knot, and yiffing along. When we got to him, he was dry humping some dog, I think, from behind, howling like a drunken man. We tried to speak sense with him. Yeah, drunk guys to drunk dude is not a good combination. But everything fell apart when someone shouted that dreadful word. Fur pile! A cacophony of howls, meows, roars, and yiffs filled the dirty living room, and the furries rose like some kind of eldritch abomination, summoned by a ritual gone wrong, and they moved with a purpose. One stinky furry was already on the floor shouting, "Yippee!" as the others crashed onto him, including our dear bro Hogan. We couldn't even comprehend what was going on. The furs were moaning? Were they enjoying this? Was this actually somehow pleasurable to them? I thought my eyes were going to bleed. I don't know, maybe they were. I was certainly reacting to something. And it felt like my brain was going to come out of my ears, melted from not being able to comprehend this ungodly situation that was unfolding, or rather, piling up in front of me. I'm pretty sure not even Nurgle himself would touch this shit. even after an orbital drop of pure holy purge that has been blessed by our holy emperor. Spidey and Jackson were the first to react. I was more drunk than they were, and they began unpiling the unholy abomination. The furries protested and complained, but we were panicking. We wanted our bro back. Give me back my bro, you yiffing furry shitstains of human waste. We pulled him out and hauled ass out of there, but the howling followed us. One of the furries did too. I don't remember what he said, something about giving back his face. I don't really remember. We were in a hurry. So back to our party spot, into the bathroom. Hi Jerry, done hurling already? No? Still some left in your belly? Sure thing, keep going. And gave Hogan bro a really yiffing cold one. We managed to pull the mask off as well and threw it into a corner. I wouldn't be surprised if it was sticky from semen or some other stuff. I washed my hands with large amounts of soap and rubbed them raw, while Hogan was sitting in the shower, his teeth clattering. Everybody had kind of gathered by the door, wanting to know what all the commotion was about. We didn't say what had happened. How the hell do you explain a yiffing fur pile in any rational way? But we did find something left behind later that night, other than the fur mask, which I'll talk about later. While everybody was inside, watching the four of us mess about in the bathroom, someone, or something, had left a big, furry shit in front of the door. Like, the biggest shit I have ever seen. Not kidding. Also, used toilet paper on the window. Probably the guy whose mask Hogan stole. After getting Hogan some new, dry clothes, and a drunk girl somehow found her way into his arms, we decided to watch a movie. The movie itself is unimportant. The important thing is that we had to put this behind us. Me, Jackson, and Spidey made a pact that we would never speak of this ever again, but something happened that made us break that pact. And this, my friends, is where our tale goes from horrifying to downright depressing. We all left when dawn broke, and someone stepped in the shit. That's how we found it. Some days later, Spidey Bro called me up and asked me to join him, Jackson Bro, and Hogan Bro at an undisclosed location. I met up, and we watched Hogan Bro burn the fur mask. Again, why the yiff had he kept that thing? Time passed, and with it, Hogan Bro changed. I didn't think of it much at first. It was only when he quit Facebook I realized something was wrong. Hogan Bro lived alone in a nice little house with his girlfriend, the drunk chick from last post, and since I was unable to contact him, I contacted her. She told me Hogan Bro had become different, changed. She told me he had become a furry. My worst fears. GIF related. That was Hogan Bro's new fetish, according to his ex. Like any good bro, I had to check on him to see how bad it was. It was bad. Really bad. I wasn't joking when I said he had come in contact with his inner animal. At least Hogan Bro was a clean dude. I talked to him for a while, tried to make him change his mind, but he was set. Hogan Bro had now found his inner yiff, and he would yiff. To yiff or not to yiff. I left, having lost a bro that day. He taught me how to play soccer. I was actually not that bad at corner shots thanks to him. So here we are today. Hogan Bro is still a furry, doing his DeviantArt stuff. I'm afraid nothing can save him now. Only the sweet embrace of death. And that is my last story for today. I might have to tell you next time about my exploits in D&D, or when I was railroaded in Shadowrun, in the most literal sense of the word, by being on an actual train. Now I fade back into obscurity, joining the Legion of Anons. Take care everyone, and until next time. Oh, and one last thing. Is the thread worth archiving? Well, KTC, I do believe the thread was worth archiving. The furry story really isn't your typical furry story, but honestly, the fact that his bro ended up corrupted by the furries. I'm gonna just put it that way. Kind of a sad story. Bit of a funny one, bit weird, bit cringe, and I gotta hear from everybody. Have you ever been in a fur pile? Be honest with me, admit your sins. Obviously, hope he embellished on his tales. But overall, they were fun stories. At least, that's what I think about it. I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you have been in a fur pile, you need to confess your sins. Anyway, that's going to do it for today. And until next time, hope you feel inspired.